evening, and welcome to the second reading from the book Ghosts of Christmas Past, edited by Tim Martin. Would you believe? Tim Martin. I've not heard of him. He wrote the introduction, by the way. Now, tonight's story is Dinner for One by Jenn Ashworth. Now, I have no idea who Jenn Ashworth is. So, I knew who M.R. James is, or was, but who Jenn Ashworth is, I don't know. But let's read her story. I'll read this story to you. Dinner for One. She, Maggie that is, comes in from the field. She rinses her hands at the sink, and without removing her muddy shoes nor taking off her coat, sits at the table and stares at the steaming cup waiting for her. It's as if she's never seen it before. Her trembling fingers hover over her lips until the tea is quite cold. She sweeps it onto the floor. The cup shatters and tea runs along the tiles. Now she goes out picking her way across the overgrown garden, over the broken fence at the far end, and off into the musty field where the pylons are and the wild hares run and fight and bleep, shall we say, F word. Maggie has not been herself lately. She spends hours walking aimlessly in the field, picking up broken and jagged pieces of rock, the remnants of a dry stone wall, long since dissolved, and returned to the elements. She brings them back to the garden. She will not explain why. She barely eats, has not washed in days, and is changing her clothes only rarely. While she does not seem to enjoy staying in the cottage, she does not appear to want to be out of sight of it. She always stays in view of one of the windows, either in the garden or the field, or pacing up and down the misty lane, as if she is looking for something. Today she gathers stones for several hours. When she returns, it is dark, and there's a fresh cup of tea waiting for her. She ignores it completely and climbs the stairs, slamming the doors. She smells of soil, but then again, so do I. My patience is starting to wear thin. I'm the one who isn't sleeping, who can drift off only for a few moments at a time before being roused by nightmares. The smell of earth, shouting, a great pain, a remembered argument of some kind, perhaps. Sometimes time itself seems to slip out of place. 1 minute I am looking out at the electricity substation in the field beyond the garden, the dark pylons and lines faded and murky in the mist, and at Maggie, picking her way over the uneven ground, head down. If I close my eyes for even a moment, the light will change. The mist will lift or deepen. The shadows on the ground will whirl jaggedly into a different direction entirely. Things tend to move around me. I know how that sounds, but there is a pile of newspapers over there on the kitchen table that simply wasn't there a moment ago. The plants on the windowsills seem to have grown inches in the space of one afternoon. I am not sure what is causing it. Maggie herself appears to enjoy rearranging things in the kitchen cupboards just for the sake of it. Boxes of eggs and loaves of bread disappear. The curtains open and close, and I never see her doing it. The cushions on the sofa aren't arranged in the way I like them, the way I taught her when we first moved into the cottage. I have tried to speak to her, but as I said, she is not herself, and of the two of us I have always needed to be the rock. So I clear the cup and saucer away, return the kitchen cupboards to a state of order, everything where it should be. When I go up to her, she is lying on her bed, staring at the ceiling. The place is disgusting. She hasn't cleaned properly in months. Leave it all to me. I'll do everything. I tell her that it will be better if it is just the two of us for Christmas lunch this year. No family or friends to disturb, to ask questions, to express misplaced concern. No special events, just a good home-cooked meal and our own company. We can bolt the door, light a fire, and keep the world outside at bay where it belongs. Then we have a silly argument. She turns on the television in the bedroom while I am speaking. It's rude, anyone would agree, and so I turn it off. She turns it back on again. Love can make you childish, and we carry on like this. On, off, on, off. Some variety performance with comedians and musicians, each doing a turn in a crowded auditorium, until she gets bored and gives up. She sits quietly on the edge of the bed in the dark. Passion can look like this sometimes, I tell her. Maggie is the kind of woman who needs to be told things many times in different ways before an important piece of information will really sink in. I am a patient person. It's why we are so well suited. We are made for each other. I keep telling her I won't give up on her. That is what love means. She is weeping softly, her hands over her face. The next day is just the same, and her mood has not improved. It might be something to do with the lack of sunlight. The cottage is shrouded in a constant fog. The air feels heavy and wet. It smells like soil and mould and rotting leaves, and I develop a cough. My breathing laboured. It becomes difficult for me to shake the impression there is something in my lungs. Some spore or mould caused by lack of exercise and the dank air. I tell her we need a holiday, somewhere dry and hot, for the sake of our health. There's been no snow here yet, but the sky is low and grey and she is still ignoring me. Come on, you're being silly. We both seem to have lost our appetites. She generally puts on weight during the winter, all those casseroles and dumplings and treacle puddings and roast dinners. It's always something we've needed to address in the spring, but this year things are different. She looks pale and drawn, like some kind of wraith. When most people are slowing down, enjoying evenings spent under a blanket, in front of a black and white film with a hot chocolate, or even a brandy to keep them company, Maggie is running buckets of hot water and bleach and scrubbing at imaginary stains on the kitchen floor. I am not without sympathy. Despite my own condition, I cook little things for her, trying to tempt her appetite. Bowls of soup and toasted sandwiches, pieces of fish from the freezer, chicken breasts in rich sauces. I lay the table and light candles. I bring out the best cutlery and the crystal glasses. She will touch nothing, but only regards the carefully arranged dishes and steaming plates with an unreadable look on her face. I suppose this is the silent treatment, to punish me for that silly business with the television. It's childish of her, and she knows it gets to me. Because of her, I sweep all the plates and dishes off the table. They roll and shatter on the kitchen floor. She doesn't move. I throw the candlesticks into the sink and lift the bubbling pans from the cooker and hold them over my head. You need to stop this now, Maggie. I don't mean to threaten her, but it all gets too much for me sometimes. I am working so hard and sleeping so little. Can't she see what she is doing to me? How cruel she is being. I can't stop coughing. It feels like there's something caught in my throat, but nothing comes up, no matter how hard I try. She should not push my buttons like this. Our nearest neighbours are half a mile away down the lane. We've always taken pains to avoid them, but today they come to the house and bring a covered dish that smells like some kind of meat. Along with that, a bunch of flowers and a box of chocolates. We're worried about you. Maggie won't let them in, and the woman hands over the food at the door. The man plucks leaves from the hedge and eyes the neglected flower beds. You will let me know if you need anything doing. Anything fetching or carrying? He laughs. I'm your man. When they leave, I am so overcome by jealousy I slam every door in the house. She gets into bed with her boots on and pulls the duvet over her ears. The meat sits on the kitchen table and until it grows a skin of blue and yellow mould, and finally she throws it out. The phone rings. She answers it in the hallway and sits at the bottom of the stairs, twisting the cord around her fingers until the tips of them turn blue. No news yet. Sweat gathers on her top lip and between her eyebrows. She's getting spots. I put some of her medicated cream on the shopping list. She won't think of it herself. No, nothing at all. There's been no sign. I don't like her hiding herself away to speak on the phone. We agreed that it wasn't right to talk about our relationship with others, not even her mother. Everyone goes through a rough spot now and again. It's our business and no one else's. A truly committed couple shouldn't have secrets from one another. I turn the hallway light on and off to get her attention, to remind her about the peak rate charges. The lights flash, and the unopened letters and takeaway flyers on the doormat swirl around the room in a paper snowstorm, and they keep at it until she remembers our agreement and hangs up. I think I'm going mad, she says, looking at the air between us. I embrace her, but she only shivers and pulls away to turn all the radiators in the house onto their highest setting. I wait for her in our bedroom, worrying about my cough and my breath, which is starting to smell like mushrooms, even to myself. She will not come up, but begins again to scrub the kitchen floor. The structure, if that's the right word for it, that she is making in the garden from her collection of stones, is growing. It started as a clumsy-looking rockery made of grey mossy and lichen-spotted rocks she dragged back from the field. She has made no attempt to obtain plants nor to install a water feature, and the rest of the garden is as poorly kept as it ever was. I used to mow that lawn, but now I can only watch as the grass becomes shaggy and clogged with moss, and she angrily, obsessively piles up her stolen stones and slots them together, building up the tower until it reaches her knees, her hips, her waist. Beyond the fence the hares chatter and scurry, wearing desire paths in the dew-clotted grass of the field. We need to decide what you want to do about Christmas. Goose this year or ham? She doesn't respond. Someone knocks at the door. We chose this place for its privacy. Few people want to live within the crackling aura of the substation. She looks around her in such a state of wide-eyed shock that it is almost cosmic. She waits. She is kneeling in the kitchen, her bucket of water at her elbow. We paid a fortune for that floor. It is Welsh slate, a shade of greyish-blue exactly the same colour as a newborn's eyes. You drop anything onto that floor and it breaks. Butterfingers Maggie learned that the first time she dropped my favourite dish while she was washing up. She's more careful now, but this is ridiculous. How many times have I seen her wash the floor this past 3 weeks? She ignores the doorbell and continues to scrub. You could eat your dinner off it, I tell her, and turn out the lights to let her know it's time for bed. She won't come. She lies awake on the couch until dawn. The day comes. Traditionally, Christmas is a time for far-flung relatives to reunite around a turkey and for every waif and stray to find a place at a friend's table. But this year I want it to be just us. We've gone off track recently. We need a special occasion. I turn on the taps in the bathroom for her so the room fills with steam. The mirror clouds over and I write my name on it and unwrap her favourite soap. I open all her drawers and pull out her best clothes. She can tidy up later. I want to find that special top I bought for her. There it is, the electric blue one. I drape it on the end of the bed and wait for her to get ready. Maggie? She used to take such care of her appearance. She didn't have a natural eye for the colours and styles that suited her the best, and she'd sometimes make little errors of judgment and draw too much attention to herself. Once she started letting me advise her in that area, she made improvements quickly. She let things slide, but I should have guided her more. It's ready, love, come out of the bath now. I wait at the table for what seems like hours. She doesn't come. I can't eat. It feels sometimes like my limbs are frozen, my mouth's filled with earth. It is time for her to stop being so selfish and start to think about me for a change. She can't have things her own way all the time. Does she think she'll be able to carry on like this when there are children to look after? There's a tin of soup on the counter, and I am sure it wasn't there a moment ago. The dish is cool. I left her to buy the puddings, to choose the wine and cheese. She said in the past that I'm too controlling, that I don't let her make decisions. So I've given her an opportunity to contribute to our meal, to put her own stamp on things. It'll be a little test for her. Let's see what she makes of it. She doesn't come. There are foxes in the garden again, screaming. The doorbell rings. This time, whoever it is won't be dissuaded, and when there's no answer, he or she moves around the side of the house, bangs at the back door, and again at the kitchen window. Maggie is kneeling on the floor with her bucket of bleach and water and her scrubbing brush. The place is spotless and her hands are red raw, and she looks up. They see her, and she stands, wiping her hands on her jeans. They come in through the back door. One of them talks about the progression of some report or complaint that has been made. It's hard to keep up with the intricacies of the conversation, and the other pretends to be paying attention, but is looking at the wet puddle on the kitchen floor, the bucket of cooling water, the scrubbing brush. She never used to be this house proud. I want to tell them that, but it seems disloyal. Maggie is speaking. I don't know where he is. I keep telling you it's been 4 months now, since before Christmas. The people that are sitting in her kitchen start asking her about me, about my finances, my bank statements. There have been no withdrawals from my account, they say, in months. Would there have been, does she think, an account that she didn't know about? A way for me to get my hands on cash somehow. Eventually they leave. She leans against the door, breathing heavily. Her legs are shaking. My temper quite overtakes me, and I throw the teacups into the air, open the cupboards and begin throwing things at her. Out-of-date tins of tuna, a box of instant porridge, the rest of the blue and white teacups, a bowl of sugar. The contents of the kitchen whirl and clatter around her. I open the cutlery drawer and the forks and spoons fly across the kitchen in a hail of glittering stainless steel, and still, even after all this, she does not look at me. Her hands are over her face and she is screaming. A broken bottle of olive oil seeps into the slate floor. We bought that in Greece and it cost a fortune. The kitchen smells like a taverna now, and she can scrub all she likes, but she will never, ever get that dark stain out of those slates. Leave me in peace, she says. Can't you even now just leave me in peace? The two visitors are picking their way along the path through the daffodils in the grass, and they were, I think, about to turn the corner and make their way to their car when they stop and look over their shoulders. Maggie stands at the sink amid the ruins of the kitchen, watching them. She whimpers, Go back to your car." One of them stops and nudges with the polished toe of his boot the pile of stones that Maggie has been working on. It looks like one of those cans you see in the Lake District sometimes, and entirely out of keeping with the style of the cottage and the landscape it is set in. The can, if that's what it is, seems to interest him. Maggie drops to her knees in the ruin of the kitchen, glass crunching under her boots. She finds her brush and starts on the floor again, ignoring the debris, the broken crockery and spilled packets of food, the oil soaking into everything. She is frantic and keening under her breath. Go away, go away, go away, go away. There was a time when domestic agreements stayed private, when a couple would be left to sort out their issues in their own way. The man kicks at the can again, covering his nose and mouth with his hand, and the stones shift and tumble, and Maggie cries out, rubbing hopelessly at the dark stain on the kitchen floor, and sobbing as the pair retrace their footsteps and return to our cottage.